So, after lunch, I have a proposal. We can do the session, it's half an hour, or we can take a group nap, like a proper Spanish siesta. It's up to you. But I guess you prefer siesta, no, session. So let's start. So my name is Maximiliano. I can go by Max or Maxi in Espanol. I'm from Argentina, Buenos Aires, so I speak Spanish. I'm a mobile web developer, so I have been doing web development since 1995. Okay, so I'm so old here. And I author a couple of books and a lot of content. That's not really important right now. You will find content on several libraries, front-end masters, Pluralsight, so on several topics. And the latest one is actually a free course / interactive ebook published by Google Chrome. It's Learn Progressive Web Apps, Learn PWA. So we still have that, yeah, because the mirror is not working. So anyway, it doesn't happen. We are used to fix in production, right? So, okay, we'll do that. So, okay, it's working now again, the mirror. I have a mirror screen here. So we are going to talk about ChatGPT. So how many of you have already used ChatGPT? Most of you, right? So we know the deal. I'm not going to explain ChatGPT for you. Also, I'm not going to talk about if ChatGPT will replace us, okay? So we know it's going to happen. But anyway, there are a lot of articles talking or discussing that. That's not our goal. Also today, in the newspaper, there is an article saying that OpenAI found something really scary that can kill humanity or something like that. So we are not going to discuss that. Also, we are not going to discuss how to be a 100x developer using AI to write your code or test your code. That's not the goal. So then, what are we going to talk about? So this is, so I will show you really quickly a couple of articles based on researches that I have been doing in the past 20 years. So if you pay attention here, this is from 22 years ago, okay? So because I'm a web developer, I always love to see how we can integrate what we are doing with the world around us. So first I started doing WAP development and explaining how to do WAP development for those mobile devices, mobile phones. So of course then BlackBerries appeared, and I also did the research on that, on how you can use HTML5 to create BlackBerry apps. Of course, the original iPhone and then iPhone 4 and all the rest appeared there. And Google Glass, remember that one? That was actually more than 10 years ago. I also did the article on how to optimize your website for Google Glass, so useful. And that's actually from this year. So how you can use web capabilities. So you can use gamepads and actually the physical world around us from the web. And now it's a turn to ChatGPT and AI in particular to see, okay, we are web developers. Is this something that will affect our websites in some ways? Can we integrate our content with AI? So there is a browser in ChatGPT. How does it work? So that's the goal of this session. So I'm going to explain where we are, what we can do to increase the opportunity to make the AI work as we expect. So I want you to understand a couple of basic concepts on ChatGPT-related ideas and what you can do today. Also, I'm going to remove the cursor that is there for some reason. So just a small warning here. The same concepts that we will see currently can be applied not just to ChatGPT and OpenAI, that's a company of ChatGPT. It can be applied the same ideas to other models. So everything that we will see today is not just for ChatGPT. So let's start then talking about ChatGPT, GPT alone, and also something known as LLMs, really quickly. So we have ChatGPT. You know what it is, right? And ChatGPT is just a product. It's an app. It's an app that you can use in a website, or you can use in actually a mobile app that is using behind the scenes a model known as GPT, a generative pre-trained transformer. We are not going to get too deep into the details here, but that's actually an LLM. It's a large language model that actually physically is just a file. The model is just a file sitting somewhere, and then we have a program that is actually executing that model. And it's part of the deep learning umbrella, and the deep learning umbrella is part of the machine learning umbrella that is part of AI. But there are other kind of AI models, algorithms, techniques that are not LLMs or GPTs. But we will focus today on LLMs. And ChatGPT is actually managed by a company. It's owned by a company known as OpenAI, that today is not open at all, and should be called closed AI maybe. But OpenAI is not just ChatGPT. ChatGPT actually is an end-user product. Also, it has APIs that we can use, or anyone can use. That those APIs will actually talk to the same model as ChatGPT. So we can also create our own ChatGPT if we want to and if we pay for it. On the other hand, we also have Microsoft that partnered OpenAI. And Microsoft has also end-user products based on GPT. For example, Bing Chat, a lot of copilots that we have right now, Visual Studio Code Copilot, then we have Windows Copilot, now Office Copilot. And also you can use Azure OpenAI APIs. All of them are actually talking to the same GPT model. Okay? So they're talking to the same GPT model. So LLMs, as I mentioned, are not the only AIs available out there. So there are a lot of models for specific situations. But we will focus on LLM because most of the AI narrative these days are around LLMs. So one of the important parts of LLMs, large language models, so it's large because instead of training these models with pictures of cats and pictures of dogs, so it can recognize where do we have a cat and where we have a dog, actually what's going on here is that LLMs can be used for a lot of things. So they have been trained with text, with large amounts of text. And they know how text work. And now we are using the same LLMs techniques to train on other formats, such as images or audio as well. But they can be used for several tasks without retraining. That's part of the most important idea. And how does they work? So think about your virtual keyboard on your phone. When you are typing, you are receiving suggestions of what should the next word be, right? So you start typing, and the keyboard will suggest you the next word. Well, LLMs are kind of that, but a million times more complicated. But the base idea is just the same. It's using statistics to try to understand what's the next word, what the next word should be, right? So, for example, if I type, the best conference for UI lovers is, what is the next word? Yeah, exactly. So the thing is that it's not that one. Actually, there are a couple of possibilities. But the LLM will try to pick the most probable one that we all know, okay, it's web. And then after it has that, it moves forward one step. And then it tries to guess the next word, okay? That can be anything. There are a lot of probabilities, and it will pick one, again, to finish the output. The best conference for UI lovers is web Malaga. So how does it work? Well, we have ChatGPT in the middle. That's the UI. So ChatGPT receives a prompt. That's what we type as the initial part. And then it talks to the model that is actually kind of a black box. So it doesn't really know so we don't really know what's going on inside. And GPT returns what's next, so what's after that. And actually, we get the result. That's what we see as a result, okay? We don't exactly know why we got that result, okay? It's statistics. So, and the base unit for that, actually, I lied before. I said words, but actually it's not trying to guess the next word. It's trying to guess the next token. We have tokens in the prompt, and we have tokens also in the output. So what's a token? A token is the minimal unit that LLMs are using to understand text. It's not simple to define them, but it typically is between 1 and 4 characters. But it depends on the case. For example, here, there is a tool where you can actually type some text and see the tokens. The tokens will appear at the bottom. So each color is actually a token. So for example, conference is just 1 token. But then when we have web, it's separated in a weird way. Okay, so in this case, if we type that, we're going to be using 15 tokens. And by the way, tokens are the unit that every company is using to charge us. So we will pay with credit card based on the tokens that we consume. And that goes both for the prompt and for the output. Okay? So that's the idea of a token. And as I mentioned before, there are a lot of models, not just GPT. We are not yet, for web development at least, we are not yet ready for self-host LLM models on web servers or clients. So because the smallest model LLM that we can find right now can be around 4 gigabytes. And I'm pretty sure that some of you are shipping 4 gigabytes of JavaScript right now to the client, but we know it's not really a good idea. And also, it's going to consume a lot of CPU or GPU client side, so we are not ready yet for that. So today, we are actually using a cloud service, and we are paying for that to actually use a model. And today, there are many companies creating models similar to GPT, such as Meta created Llama, that is open source. Google has LaMDA and Palm. The only one available actually for everyone, for us, is actually Palm, the second one. We have Claude, Mistral AI, and now a lot more companies such as Elon Musk with X has created Grok, but it's still not as an API available, and the same, Amazon is creating its own LLM. Everyone is creating its own LLM, right? So, and then you need to pick a cloud service. So if you use OpenAI directly, you can use GPT models. You can use DALL-E, that's the one that creates images, and other models such as their audio models and so on. If you use Microsoft, you can still use GPT and OpenAI's models over Azure. But also, it's not just OpenAI. You can use Llama, that is cheaper because it's free, so you will pay just for the hardware usage and not the license for the model. And Hugging Face, you can also run models that you have on Hugging Face. Okay? And then we have Amazon Web Services, where you can today run Llama, Claude, or Mistral. And on the Google side, if you want to use the Google Cloud, you can only use Palm, the Google model. That, to be honest, from all the lists, is kind of the worst. Don't tell anyone. And if you have tried Bard, you probably have seen that in action. Okay? So then you will need to pick one model and one provider in case you want to integrate with these services today in your websites. But LLMs can hallucinate. I'm pretty sure that for those of you that have been playing with ChatGPT, you have already seen that. That at one point, it feels like it's lying. It's pretty convincing, right? So it's really a good liar. So you ask for something, and sometimes it's about facts, but sometimes it's about anything. I mean, it's giving you a really confident answer, but it's wrong. So why is that? Well, if we go back to this idea of picking the next word, the thing is that I also lied before. LLMs, the model, by default, is not most of the time picking the next most probable word that we know now it's a next probable token, actually. Sometimes it picks the most probable, sometimes it picks the second most probable, sometimes the third, sometimes the fourth. So there is kind of a random picking there. So that makes the model more creative, because sometimes it goes for another path. So instead of picking web, sometimes it picks happening. So now it goes it actually takes another path now. And then the next possible words can be, for example, happening in, and then we have the next possible words. And now maybe instead of picking Malaga, maybe it picks Spain. So now we have a different answer. Still true, but a different answer. So that's why when you ask the same thing to ChatGPT, you don't get the same answer all the time, because it uses different paths over the answers, okay? And sometimes, what's the problem with that is that sometimes it picks the wrong one. For example, saying that a conference like this one is impossible, okay? And in that case, that's hallucination, okay? That's the model that is hallucinating. But when we have a website and we are integrating with the model somehow, we don't want this. Or we want to reduce it as much as possible. Well, when we are using the API, we actually can kind of fine-tune this. There is a variable known as the temperature. And the temperature is a number, typically from 0 to 2. 0 means that it always needs to pick the most probable answer. That will give us consistent answers. So to the same prompt, we'll always get the same result. but that will lose creativity. So it's always the same answer. The thing is that it's a variable that we can change. So the greater the value, the more creative and the more possible that it can hallucinate. Right? So, but on every call to the API, you will pick if you want to be creative or not, or if you want a consistent answer all the time. So now, those are basic concepts. But okay, we are web developers. What we can do? So we can integrate our web app, websites, or even mobile apps if you want, with LLMs for a lot of situations. Also, we can create the plugin to ChatGPT in case you want to provide your services or the content that you have right now in your website. You want to provide that directly to the user, to the ChatGPT user. So you want to, let's say, make ChatGPT smarter, applying your own data or your own services. Also, you can create content for your website using ChatGPT. And something that AIO, and what is that? SEO, but for artificial intelligence. Because now ChatGPT can browse your website. So have you ever thought about that? So it can read your content. So should we optimize the content for AI? And what does that mean? So let's start with that. Because ChatGPT can now browse the web. It has a browser. Have you ever tested your website on ChatGPT? How does it work? So actually, it works like this. You go to ChatGPT, you type a question, and ChatGPT says, oh, I think that we need to go to browse the web, for example, when is Web conferencing happening? And then it will search into the web to actually find the answer. It will give me the answer. The answer is coming from a website. Okay? I can click there. I can see the source. So I can go and browse the original website. Okay? And I can continue talking to the model, such as, for example, in this case, I can ask, is Maximiliano Firtman, that's me, speaking there? And yeah, it will say it's one of the speakers, and maybe it gives me to another link to get there. Okay? So when you see this, there are a lot of website owners, and I'm not sure if it's happening to you right now, or designers or website authors, that they don't like this. It's like, hey, that's my content. So it's like they're stealing your content somehow. So ChatGPT, because the user is not seeing your website. Yeah, there is a link there, it's a source, but it's using our content. So how does this work? So first, we start with the prompt. So the user types a prompt to the ChatGPT user interface. Then the user interface is talking to the OpenAI cloud, and the OpenAI cloud is talking to the GPT model. And the GPT model says, oh, you know what? I don't have the answer for this. So we need to go to the web. So the GPT model responds to the OpenAI cloud that we need to go to the web. So then the OpenAI cloud goes to the website, downloads the HTML for that, or makes a search, okay, and then get into a website, download the HTML. Then it moves, now it like merge the original user's prompt with the HTML into one big prompt, and it sent that to GPT. And now GPT can answer the question that goes back to the user. Okay? So it's not like the model has internet connection as of today. So it's still not Skynet. So ChatGPT is just answering, hey, maybe we need to go and grab some HTML content from the website to actually get an answer. So the problem is that sometimes you ask a question, for example, that one, what are the main coffee categories at starbucks.com? And it will answer that, I'm sorry, I can't do that because it's a JavaScript-based app, which for me, it remembers me the Ajax moment of web development, where if you are doing Ajax, that's, let's say, today's client-side programming, React or Angular or wherever, when everything is pure JavaScript, actually Google originally wasn't actually indexing the content of your website. Today it's a little bit smarter, but anyway. And there were some techniques and tricks. I had one book on that topic I author, how to do that. And we are back to that situation. So the ChatGPT browser today doesn't support JavaScript. So it will not execute your JavaScript. Actually, I can go back to my query here, so my conversation, and I can ask, what is he talking about? I'm talking about myself. And it's visiting www.web.com. Then, for some reason, it's going to my own website, actually an old one. And then it's going back to www.com. I don't know why. And after a while, it will say, you know what? I don't know what he's talking about. Why? Because of the web.com website, to actually get into the details of this session, you need to click in the agenda or in my name, and that's JavaScript. So ChatGPT cannot read that as of today. Okay? So something to have in mind. And also, as I mentioned before, there are a lot of developers and website owners that they say, I don't want ChatGPT to get my data and then compress the data or just give the user the juice, okay, and not know what's around that. So we know it's using Bing as a search engine, but it honors robots.txt. How many of you have experience writing a robots.txt file? Only a few. Only a few. So that was originally used for search engines, to give some commands to search engine spiders that are actually indexing our websites. Well, now you can use ChatGPT-user, and you can ask for changes. Actually, that's the full current user agent for the ChatGPT browser. So if you want, server-side, you can look for that string in the user agent and deliver something different. Better, worse, I don't know. You can trick it. You can trick ChatGPT if you want. I don't know. I'm not giving you ideas, but it's just something that we can do. So then we have to, you can opt out for ChatGPT, right, just by having that user agent ChatGPT user and then disallow. If you do that, then ChatGPT will not be able to read the contents of your website. Okay? So then you can create your own plugins. In this case, if you have a RESTful service, you can make it available to ChatGPT. For example, here at the conference, we can open a web service offering all the data about the speakers and the sessions and everything. And then there is a store, a plugin store, and user can pick a ChatGPT, can enable ChatGPT plugins. But actually, by the way, the UX is pretty terrible these days. But it works pretty similar. Then the user will send a prompt, such as who is speaking at web, and then it will call your service, your API. Then you return some data that will go to an enhanced prompt to GPT that will finally give us an answer. Okay? And for that, you create a JSON. It's a manifest. You can read the docs later. It's just a JSON and a YAML file where you will define the structure of your data. Okay? So you can create a plugin that will offer services to the user. And it can also be an authenticating-based plugin. So you can even know who is the user with a token and then serve a custom data for that user. And finally, we can use GPT APIs to enhance our website, our web app. So for that, there are a couple of capabilities that we can take advantage of, such as we can summarize, we can infer, such as sentiments, relevant data, tags. I will show you an example in a sec. We can transform data. We can rewrite data into different formats. We can extract data. For example, now you can ask the user to upload a picture of a boarding pass. And you can ask ChatGPT to extract the data, such as the flight date, the flight number, the airline, or wherever. And you will get that information in structured data. It can be a JSON. And you can generate content as well, of course. For example, you can ask GPT, tell me with one word if this message is positive or negative. This is the best conference ever. It will give you positive. Then you can parse that and know, for example, if a review that the user is sending to your website is positive or negative, and act in consequence. Some ideas for your websites. You can use it for user input detection, like profanity, hate speech, inappropriate content, so you can know if something is safe or not. You can personalize the content. I mean, if someone wants always everything summarized, yeah, we can do that. Language translation, even to languages that you haven't heard about, okay, it can do that. Content tagging, so you can tag content. And of course, you can create your own chatbots. that can chat with your content, or it can act as an assistant from your website, from your web app. So, and that leads to the idea of prompt engineering. So prompt engineering, because everything has to do with the prompt, is our only variable here. It's the process of designing and refining prompts or inputs to actually generate the desired output. If you ask me, I don't like the idea of calling this engineering. I think it's more proper hacking. So we are trying to hack the prompt to get a result that, by the way, it depends on the model. Different models will have different hacks. But anyway, the more explicit and large the prompt, it's better for the statistics to know what's next. And the more accurate the results. And also the more money you will pay, because you pay by tokens, okay? But in this case, for developers, prompt engineering for developers, sometimes we need specific outputs. For example, consistent and deterministic outputs. So I always want the same result. I don't want creativity. In a specific format, such as JSON, I want JSON. Or I want to avoid prompt injection. If I'm merging users' input within the prompt, I mean, the user might be sending some instructions to the model that I don't want. So things to have in mind when we're doing this. So we have to send specific and clear instructions to the model. We can use delimiters for dynamic data. We can ask the format. And we can give a model to the model an example. So, and also what happens if something's wrong. And I know this is still blurry, so let me show you an example. If I ask GPT, you're a travel assistant, give me a list of 5 suggestions if I visit the city Malaga. And I'm using delimiters, just asterisks, for Malaga, I will get a result, okay? So the problem is that the result is in any format. I cannot parse that in a web app. Well, you can go and say, let me start here, in JSON format. The problem is that, yeah, it created any JSON. It's not the JSON that I want. So then you can use a template and say, I want the answer to be similar to this JSON. This is how you do this. This is how you ask GPT, the model, to give the data in the format that you want. And trust me, it works. It will give you that in the JSON. So that's prompt engineering for web developers. But what happens if you say, for example, that I want to visit the city with any name, a fake name, or it can be a prompt injection. Someone is trying to do something bad. For example, I say jamón serrano, Iberian ham. That is not a city name, right? So I will still get the response, but it's probably not going to work. So I can say, if it's not valid, please return false, or anything you want. So then, in this case, it will validate the input for us, okay? So that's prompt engineering for web developers. So that's kind of what we can do today with ChatGPT, and remember, with any model. So now you understand basic LLM concepts: the prompt, the output, the LLM, the model, the cloud, prompt engineering, the plugin, and so on, and what you can do today. You can customize how the browser will browse your website. Have in mind, JavaScript is not working these days, so it will just read the HTML. And you know how you can integrate. You can create a plugin, or you can also use these APIs to generate JSON data, or summarize data, or tag data. If you remember, that same concept may be used today for other models and other cloud services as well, not ChatGPT and OpenAI. And if you want to read more, you have a free article on my website, Firt.dev, with more details and more technical details about this. And also at Frontend Masters, there is a workshop that I deliver, and it's in the library, on AI and web development. So after that, we are running out of time. So I will be here in case you have any questions here today, for the whole day, and also tomorrow. So, gracias. Thank you.